Do you ever look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm a dame?
Go and support your local cinemas and look at all the event cinema things that are coming up. There's all kinds of things. We do everything from dance. We do Matthew Bourne's company, which makes dance really accessible. No hesitation on this,
Okay.
I have to say. Having worked in the entertainment business, I've been very fortunate to be taken to quite a lot of live gigs. Bruce Springsteen.
And did you get to meet Bruce Springsteen?
Oh yeah, my jaw had dropped. It was right down there. It was, what? Yes, it's going to be announced. Watch this space towards the end of October. So
Oh, fantastic.
That would be exciting.
That'd be very exciting. Is that an exclusive, a Trafalgar exclusive?
It's an exclusive, yes.
Today on the Trafalgar Education Podcast, we are delighted to be in conversation with the woman that made it all happen, without whom we wouldn't be sitting here today. Dame Rosemary Squire is a powerhouse in the world of theatre and entertainment, founding not one but two global entertainment companies alongside her husband Sir Howard Panther. Starting with the Ambassadors Theatre Group in 1992, bringing venues into their fold across the country and across the Atlantic to Broadway. If doing it once wasn't enough, in 2017 it was time to do it all again with Trafalgar Entertainment. But this time, in addition to venues, productions, ticketing, cinema and events, there was a decision to acquire Stagecoach Performing Arts and Drama Kids, creating a division of Trafalgar Education. Please give a big welcome to Dame Rosemary Squire.
Thank you.
How are you?
I'm great, thanks. Is that
Good.
good, like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So is this your first podcast that you've ever been on, or have you been on a podcast before?
I've done lots of radio, but I haven't done specifically a podcast, so this is exciting times.
Good. And what better podcast than it to be a Trafalgar podcast?
Indeed. And on education for young people, very close to my heart.
Yes, you're very passionate about that, which is one of my later questions, but I'm going to come into it now. Was that part of your decision to then, when you were creating Trafalgar, to think about having an education division within that?
I think what we wanted was a much broader based company than just theatres and producing shows. And I've always been passionate about performing arts education. I was really fortunate as a kid myself to be exposed to all kinds of great work and also to participate. And I just know that they're amazing skills for life. Just as an example, last weekend I was back in Nottingham, which is where I grew up, for an anniversary of my school, and it was in the Performing Arts Centre, which I chaired the appeal to get that built. And it was a really important moment to see all the kids from the school. They'd got a band, they were playing in the orchestra there on stage, and it was brilliant.
Oh, that's fantastic. Brilliant. It must be really nice to go back and see things that you've been involved in and just really being utilised to the best of.
Yeah,
fantastic.
absolutely.
Well, two things that I want to come back to from your introduction. First of all, do you ever have a little moment when you sit back and think, oh wow, I've created two international entertainment brands? How does that feel?
Well, I guess I do. I think I'm very proud that I think it's created great jobs in the sector for people. You know, we employ now thousands of people. And ATG, when I left ATG with Howard in 2016, it was already the largest live theatre business in the world. So, you know, there were thousands and thousands of jobs there. It's enabled us to produce all kinds of work that is very diverse. You know, it could be anything from family entertainment for Christmas, pantomime, or it could be new plays or rock and roll musicals or classic musical revivals. So very broad based. But I would say the one thing that unites all of that is we've always really tried to produce work of high quality. So to produce the best in breed, if you like, of the best, most fun rock and roll musical or the best revival and so on.
Yeah, and that's really apparent, especially if you look at things like Rocky Horror Picture Show.
Sure.
That has been doing the rounds for years and years and years, but still, you can't beat it, can you?
Very fresh. Rocky Horror Show stage came first, before the picture show, which was the film.
Yeah.
So it started in 1973, can you believe, in a tiny studio theatre above the Royal Court in Sloane Square. And it's come from those inauspicious beginnings to, 50 plus years on, to still being performed all over the world. Any night of the week, you probably have half a dozen productions globally.
And am I right in saying that it's much more popular now than what it used to be when it was actually originally out there?
I think it is, because it's become a proper global brand. I'm really excited because we're going to be producing it on Broadway next year.
Oh,
so
wow.
that's something to look forward to. Yes, it's going to be announced, watch this space, towards the end of October. There's a great cast being worked on, and it's going to be in the very famous Studio 54 space.
Oh,
so
fantastic.
That will be exciting.
That'd be very exciting. Is that an exclusive, a Trafalgar exclusive?
It's an exclusive, yes, yes. Sam Pinkleton is going to direct it, who is an amazing young American director who just won the Tony Award for his production of Oh Mary. It's a big comedy that's a huge hit on Broadway.
Wow, that sounds fantastic. The other thing that I want to come back to, and this is a bit of a silly question, but I've always wanted to ask somebody of your status this question. Do you ever look in the mirror and say, wow, I'm a dame?
No, I don't do that. I think it's very nice to have what you've achieved recognised.
Yes.
And, you know, who doesn't like a pat on the back?
Well,
I think it was a really wonderful thing. I think particularly I've been involved with a lot of charities. I have a daughter who's disabled, and she spent her first weeks at Great Ormond Street Hospital when she was a baby, and so I've kept a close relationship with them over the years and actually chaired 2 appeals for them. So for charities that I've been involved with, I think I mentioned the one for the school, chairing the committee that raised the money for the Performing Arts Centre. It helps, and you know, it does give a kind of a bit of status, and I think people feel that it's serious and recognise the appeal. And you know, hey, it helps in a restaurant too, so who doesn't mind having a great table, which is nice?
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very true. So one thing that we do on the Performing in Life podcast is we ask all guests to bring in an item of something that was of meaning. So something to do with your youth, or something that's an important prop, we're going to call it, because we're in theatre. So we have the prop basket with us.
Yes.
And so I'm going to ask you to take your props and just tell us a little bit about why you brought those with you today.
Thank you. So, I've got a few things here. Shall I start one by one?
Yes.
This is just a little finger puppet that my mum was absolutely fundamental to my love of theatre and getting me into theatre. She was a very creative person herself. She was good at crafts, and she always made lots of things. And these were finger puppets that actually she made for my kids. This hasn't actually survived from my childhood, but she did the same for us.
Yeah.
And there were always little shows with the finger puppets, talking, making up stories. It was a great environment as a kid. I was very, very fortunate.
It must have really developed your creativity, your creative brain as well.
I think that's exactly right. And I think for a lot of kids, because one of my kids and my husband are really dyslexic. And you might say, well, you know, actually it's reading things and reading a script and reading stuff out loud that gives you confidence. It's not always for everybody. If you're dyslexic, your worst nightmare is to be faced with a script that you've not read before. So actually, my husband or my daughter would be able to do the voices of the finger puppets, or to if you like, hide behind something.
Yes.
So that they didn't have to be themselves. They could make it up. They could be creative, and it wouldn't have to be something that was
not
written
so
down.
exposing.
Not so exposing,
Yeah.
exactly so. So I think it's a great combination of, you know, creativity's at home, isn't it, and at school. And I was very fortunate in the days when I went to school. I heard that extraordinary trumpeter on the last night at the proms, and I listened to, she's got a programme, she's called Alison Balsam, and she talked about her childhood where children got a chance to try a whole variety of musical instruments. And I was really fortunate, like her. Everybody played recorder in those days,
Yes.
back in the day. But I also got to play guitar, I got to play violin and piano. I tried out lots of things, and I played in the school band. I was never a very good violinist, but talk about teamwork, you know, you've got to work as a team in a band, haven't you? It doesn't work otherwise. It all falls apart. So that was a great thing for me.
Sounds brilliant. We don't get those creative opportunities in schools anymore in the same way.
No, which is why I think something like Stagecoach is so important. You know, for so many kids, they don't have that opportunity. And it gives you the chance to try different things, to try singing, your own voice, your own instrument. I know a lot of dyslexic kids love singing, but hate actually reading.
Yes.
And I think are fantastically musical. I know my own daughter, she played piano and sang really well at school, was in all the choirs. She was lucky, she still had a school with choirs, but she also did dance lessons and, you know, did some drama stuff too.
Yeah.
which is obviously what Stagecoach offers. It
Yeah,
offers,
absolutely.
all three.
Yeah, especially for those who don't, I don't want to use the word thrive, but who struggle to access the classroom in the traditional way that a lot of other people do. It's a place for them to really find their feet, isn't it? Fantastic.
So I've got some more things hidden in here.
Oh, brilliant.
This is a bit of a reminder of my childhood.
Okay.
This is a little puppet, which I actually think looks like my husband. And here you are, Howard. Here you are. We had, when I was a kid, a cardboard theatre at home. I think you can get these very posh ones from Pollock's, but you can make them too out of the ubiquitous cereal boxes.
Yes.
And we also made our own stories, my sister and I and our friends. We'd have lots of puppets coming in and little animals, and we produced our own shows. It was really fun.
Oh, fantastic.
And I think, you know, it's something that kids can do inexpensively. You can make your own puppets. It doesn't have to be quite like this. Poor man, he's all twisted up, isn't he? But it's again, creativity can be at home as well as when you're out going to activities at the weekend and so on.
Fantastic. And then I can see there's something that looks rather chic in here.
Oh yes, this takes you to Venice, where there are lots of masks in Venice, and carnival time. For a lot of people, wearing a mask and indeed wearing a costume really gives you confidence that you don't have when you're yourself. You know, you can sort of be hidden behind, and you can suddenly be exotic and mysterious. And I have to say, I've been to Venice twice during Carnival. Once to see a show, which, honestly, if any of the people watching this get the chance to see it, it's one of the best experiences I've had. I went to see a clown, a Russian clown, who's called Slava, who does a show called Slava's Snow Show.
Oh, it looks amazing. I've never actually seen it, but I've seen the videos.
Try
it looks incredible. It was in London, I think, wasn't it?
It was in London.
A few months
we
ago.
produced it way back in the 90s at the Old Vic Theatre for a Christmas season. It was absolutely magical. And they are out again touring. I think Slava himself, there's a bit of a clown school that he runs in France. He's not in it so much. He might be doing the odd scene. But it is truly magical. There's very little language because most of them are international actors, international performers. But the costumes, the mime, the visual impact and the audience participation, I'm not going to give too much away, but if you get the chance, we have it playing this autumn, I think it's end of November, at our theatre in Bradford.
Oh, fantastic.
And knowing the space in Bradford, the end of it, there is a finale where everybody gets to join in. It will be a brilliant place to see it.
Yeah.
And it really is very moving, and it shows you, it's almost like theatre and performance distilled down to its simplest form. So it's about movement, it's about expression, it's about showing feelings and emotions, but not necessarily verbally.
No, I suppose it comes back to what you were saying about the puppetry.
Yeah.
It's that simple form of very accessible theatre in that immersive style where everybody feels involved in it, isn't it?
Completely.
Yeah.
So I'd really recommend anybody to go and see it. It's called Slava's Snow Show, and you've got to go and see it, Chase.
I will absolutely go and see it.
It's even better in the theatre.
I've seen visuals, but I would, I would love to go and see that.
Yeah.
Am I right in saying it's a very immersive experience?
It is.
Yeah.
It is, and participation, a bit of participation too, yeah.
Brilliant. Good stuff. Thank you very much for sharing all of that. That was and a nice variety as well. Things from childhood, but also things that have still inspired you as an adult as well.
I have to say, I had dinner last night with some friends, including a wonderful performer who does amazing podcasts, an actor called Sean Hayes, who is currently playing the Barbican Theatre in Goodnight Oscar.
Ah, yes.
And he was having dinner with Simon Callow, who's an old friend of Howard's, my husband. And Simon agreed that Slava's Snow Show, he happened to talk about it last night, was one of the most amazing theatrical experiences he'd ever seen. And I can't recommend it too highly. I think everyone should go and see it. So, you know, hopefully parents take your kids to it.
Yeah. And so Bradford.
It's in Bradford, but it's also on tour. If you Google Slava's Snow Show, it will tell you where it's going. They're out again this autumn and winter.
Oh, brilliant. And it's quite fitting for winter, I think, isn't it?
It is. Yeah. Lots of snow.
Yeah. Brilliant. So let's go back to education.
Yeah.
And to thinking about when you went to school. So you went to school in Nottingham, as you mentioned earlier. Am I right in saying you went to school alongside another very inspirational woman? the late Dame Stella Rimington.
I did. That's very well researched. I had to give a little tribute to her on Saturday.
Okay, and for anybody at home who doesn't know who Dame Stella Rimington is, can you give us a little overview of who she is and what she did?
I'm sure most people will know the James Bond movies. I think Judi Dench played the character M, who is actually James Bond's boss, I think in about 8 movies. It was certainly from the 90s right until about 10 years ago she played this character. And the character that Judi Dench plays is actually based on the real-life person who is Stella Rimington. Stella sadly died in August, but she passed away. She was 90. But I had a lot to do with her when we were building this Performing Arts Centre. And we used to do the train journey up and down from London together. And I got the chance to chat to her because she was one of those people who she didn't stand out in any way. I have to say, absolutely brilliant for somebody who's for a spook in the Secret Services. She did nothing that would ever make her stand out. She was very quiet, very thoughtful and listened. And she always had with her a tiny little notebook and making notes on everything. You know, woe betide if you did the minutes for any meeting and you got it wrong, because Stella had got all the details. Yeah. And the other thing she had was an unbelievable memory. She absolutely remembered every single detail. Like you'd go into a room and she'd be able to describe it to you, you know, a week later in unbelievable detail. And I said to her, why do you keep coming back? You know, Dame Stella, you've had a remarkable career. She was the first woman head of any security service. Mm-hmm. She's the first woman who had maternity leave and came back to work. I mean, we're all used to that now, but, you know, 30, 40 years ago, it was unheard of. And she went back to work after. And she was also, which was very tough on her family and her, the first woman to be named as a head of first person to be named as a head of security services. So she was a public figure right at the time when terrorism moved from the police to the security services. Yeah. So it was a very tough time. She had 2 daughters and they had a very tough time. And I said to Stella, why do you come back to Nottingham? Why do you schlep up on the train? You know, you've got lots of things to do. She said, because it gave me the time at school, gave me some gifts that have stayed with me for life and really stood me in great stead for my job. She said one of them was memory. She said, learning scripts, learning your lines, or if you're in a band, learning your music or playing your pieces by ear. You have to develop your memory. And memory is like any other muscle. You know, you have to work hard to develop it. And she was brilliant at remembering everything. She also said, I loved at school, and the reason I want to support the Performing Arts Centre, all of the school plays, and they were pretty amateurish, you know, and she was there 20 years before me, 30 years before me, but it was all pretty amateurish. But she said, you know, it taught me teamwork. You have to trust each other. You have to rely on other people, and that stood me in great stead for building a team that, you know, when you're doing obviously such a responsible job as she did, having a great team who are with you, it's a skill that stays with you for life. It also, she said, it taught her the ability to be flexible and to look at things differently. She felt sometimes she could become a different character. And you know, after she was made to retire at 60, I think a lot of civil servants in those sort of jobs retire very early. After that, and if you look her up on Wikipedia now, it says Dame Stella Rimington, author, because she became, after she retired in the last 30 years of her life, very celebrated writer. She wrote the first autobiography of anyone who'd headed a security service, which took 3 or 4 years to get clearance from government. But it's a remarkable read. I'd urge anyone, you know, I'm sure every library's got a copy. It's called Open Secret.
Oh, wow.
And it's worth going to read her experience in it. And also, she then reinvented herself as an author of thrillers, crime novels, of course, about a woman in the Secret Service, but they were brilliant. So, no, I had huge admiration for her.
Yeah, she sounds fascinating, and I'm sure the books are a fascinating read as well, particularly the biography. I bet that's...
The other celebrated student from my school is the very first woman artistic director of our National Theatre, Indu Rubasingham. We all went to the same school, And Indu's younger than me. She's probably 10 or 15 years younger than me. And she was there, and she did drama. Then she went on to Hull University and studied drama after. But the bug, if you like, she got the exposure when she was young. She got the training and the opportunity, and then she moved on to take the drama degree and became an assistant director and then an associate director, and started, at the bottom of the rungs and climbed her way up.
Wow, so there's clearly success in the water in Nottingham.
I think so. I think the success in the water in the performing arts piece.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think it's so important for whatever you do. Stella said I had to do all sorts of things, like they made me do the Richard Dimbleby lecture, and she said, I'm a shy person. How she was in a room, she'd be retiring and quiet. She said, that's how I am. But I had the confidence to do that because I had performed. And it really gave me the confidence. And they're still available online. If you look up Richard Dimbleby lectures, and there's Dame Stella. She does it brilliantly.
Oh, fantastic. See, that's just one really incredible example of how the performing arts are so transferable into everything you do. And I think it's a shame that not enough parents see the value in that when it comes to education. It's very much, study for the results, for the outcome. And sometimes I think we forget that the exam side of things is purely a stepping stone, isn't it? It's the step that you need just to get to the next place, but that doesn't mean that you should let your creativity suffer in any way.
And they genuinely are. The skills of how you can then make the most of the opportunities, skills for your life.
Absolutely, especially if you want to, for example, be a self-employed person. In the same way that you started out putting businesses together, you would have had to think creatively about how you wanted to market things and how you wanted to reach people and how to build relationships, and those are all really important skills. Another thing I found out when I was doing my research, which for me doesn't link into this in any sort of way, so I'm sure you can probably give us a little bit more. A degree in Spanish. So what was it that made you go, we've talked about all this creativity and everything that you did as a child. What made you go to that area where you wanted to get a degree in Spanish? And then what did you learn from that you then brought into business?
Do you know, I think studying languages, a bit like Dame Stella said, developing your memory and having that ability to retain things, languages do that for you too. And I studied Spanish and French and also a regional language called Catalan. And I had 2 years in Spain, I had summer jobs in France, I did all sorts of things. And part of it was, I have to say, it really fed into me the fun I'd had, pretending to be other characters. So I remember I almost brought in today, I tried to find some of the things from when I lived in Spain and when I lived in France that, that made me look a bit Spanish or look a bit French, or the music I liked when I was a kid. I really immersed myself in it. And I think it was all part of, if you like, taking on another persona, because I always loved the spoken side, which lots of people dread, don't they?
They do.
And I always liked to pretend sort of sounding French or sounding Spanish and doing my most extravagant Spanish accent. And it was great fun. And you don't have to get better at it.
Well, this is it. And living somewhere as well, that really helps, doesn't it, with learning the language.
Yeah. So I think I developed a good memory, which has really stood me in stead for work. On the finance side, to this day, I can often remember things from a quick glance at something. I suppose the experience gives you, what to look at, what's the most important thing, but I can recall it because I've still got those powers of, I could remember a word in 4 languages back in the day. Not sure I could now. But, you'd have to practice it again. And it is like a muscle. Yeah, it's the riding the bike thing, isn't it? Once you've ridden a bike, you may not have ridden one for years, but you could get back on it at some point. Yeah.
I think that there's definitely something in that. I think languages are very special.
Yeah.
Very, very special. So somewhere that's not as exotic but just as fabulous, Woking. So Woking has played a massive part, a significant part of the journey, not just in ATG but in Trafalgar as well. So what was it that you founded ATG? Obviously the New Victoria Theatre was a big part of that as well. What made you think, right, let's get back to Woking for working on Trafalgar Entertainment?
New Victoria Theatre in Woking was our first regional theatre. I started working on it in 1989 or 1990, long time ago, and made the decision having commuted, it opened in 1992, and having not expected to be down here running it, a couple of months after it had opened, I actually moved down to run the theatre in 1992.
Okay.
And at that time, I'd got 2 small children, my older 2 kids, and they were living in North London. And after a while, I said to Howard, this is just not going to work. I think we have to move. We made a sort of halfway house to Twickenham, but a couple of years later, over 30 years ago now, we actually moved to the borough. And we're still in the same house in Woking that we bought in 1995. So we've lived in the borough for over 30 years. I'm a proud council taxpayer. And I have to say, and I know Woking's come in for a lot of flack, but they were very, very good to the arts. They supported the New Victoria, they supported the Lightbox Gallery, they supported the cinemas being expanded and refurbished even quite recently.
Well, Woking used to have its own arts council, didn't it, until a few years ago?
It did, you're absolutely right. And I think they also have, the participation in the arts is huge, because there is a studio theatre in the complex next door where the New Victoria Theatre is called the Rhoda McGaw Theatre. And I think at one point there were more local groups of, drama clubs, amateur dramatics, that kind of thing, here than anywhere else. Every village had got their own pantomime, their own show, and there was a lot of participation. It builds a community too.
It does. And until last year, Woking still had its own drama festival, one of the most exclusive in the whole country. Everybody wanted to be part of Woking. That stopped last year.
I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
its final one, which is a real shame, because there was so much use out of the Rhoda McGaw, like you say, in that. And I tell you who has moved in and started doing more stuff there, Christopher Biggins.
Has he?
Yeah, he's doing evenings. He did Hayley Mills. And then I believe he's with Maureen Lipman later on this week at some point. So it
Fabulous.
is being
Biggins
used.
is a great guy.
Yeah.
He is a fabulous... He started off... Howard and Biggins worked together way back in the... I don't know when, but a very long time, when he was a straight actor. He was he was in... I think he was in a Shakespeare with him, and then they did something else. So they've known each other many, many decades. And he also is a fantastic pantomime performer. And a very generous, kind man.
He comes across that way, doesn't he? Like, generally.
Yeah.
In an article in The Stage that was published back in April, you were quoted as saying, being ousted from ATG was the most painful moment of your career. With resilience being part of what we try to instill in young people at Stagecoach and Drama Kids, how deep did you have to dig after that moment to say, right, I want to go back in, I'm going to do this again?
Look, I think there's nothing to be gained dwelling on the past, but it was, for me, it had been my career for more than 25 years, my life. And it did feel a bit like the death of a child, that the child, we'd started from nothing, quite literally from the boot of my car when we didn't even have an office for the theatre. I didn't have anywhere to sit at the beginning, but we'd literally started it from nothing and built it up to be the largest in the world, which is a bit of a dream, isn't it?
Yeah, it's quite an achievement.
It is a dream. It was very painful, but I think Howard was remarkably dogged. We left with the ability to buy one theatre, which we had to buy. We weren't given it, but we had to buy it. And we talked long and hard about, should we just stop, we both had a pretty good career, but in the end we decided that actually there were more things we wanted to do. And one of the pities of becoming such a large company like ATG is you do get further removed from the work and from the people who create the work, because, a live entertainment business is all about what happens on stage. For Stagecoach, it's what happens with the kids on stage, all the great productions they have, end of term ones, end of year ones, and the whole national ones and so forth. That's something so special. And I think when you're running a big organisation, you can just get bogged down in running the business. So we wanted to be back closer to the work and making the work happen. We bought Trafalgar Theatre, which at that time had 2 smaller spaces, which meant you really were on top of the work in the smallest one, which was fun to do again. And then opportunities came along, like Stagecoach and indeed Trafalgar Releasing, both of which were areas that I was really passionate about, because for those who don't know, Trafalgar Releasing is called an event cinema business, but lots of people have heard of NT Live, which does National
Theatre
Theatre
Live.
productions in cinemas. Well, pretty much everything else that is a live event but streamed into a cinema is done by our company, Trafalgar Releasing. We do classical dramas. We do, for example, we filmed a lot of our own productions. Anything Goes, Kiss Me Kate, and they've been out on BBC, on the iPlayer, or PBS in the US. We also do pop music though, so we did Taylor Swift, the Eras tour, everywhere apart from in North America, which was AMC who did that. So that was another business. I always felt, if you lived in Inverness, and I suppose it's partly because I grew up in Nottingham, not in London, it's very expensive and hard to get to see stuff in the West End.
It's very true, yeah.
We're fortunate in this country that we have great regional theatre, and I mean really high quality, and one of the things Howard and I are most passionate about is touring work. So like Fiddler on the Roof did its sell-out season at the Barbican this summer, and without a beat, it was down to Bromley to get the set converted to tour, to bring in any new cast members, and then it's out on tour, and it's been out ever since, and will continue well into next year. So people who, whether you're in Edinburgh or Cardiff or Bristol or Norwich, you'll be able to see the production all around the country, which is great, and I think it's really important. However, there are certain productions that just can't do that for a whole variety of reasons, or they're just completely sold out. Like, so for example, we streamed David Tennant in Macbeth to cinemas, and it's affordable. You can pay £20 or £25 to go to the cinema to see something, whereas if you live in Aberdeen, it's going to cost you hundreds of pounds with the travel, the accommodation, the ticket, and isn't affordable for most people. So go and support your local cinemas and look at all the event cinema things that are coming up. There's all kinds of things. We do everything from dance. We do Matthew Bourne's company, which makes dance really accessible, to the Metropolitan Opera, to Coldplay, to Taylor Swift, and lots of stage work like Anything Goes or Kiss Me Kate as well.
It's amazing that now there is so much available in the cinema for screen. You go in and I don't know about anybody else, but I love going to cinema on time. And yes, it's painful sometimes to sit and watch the trailers, but to me that's part of it, isn't it, watching all the trailers? And now to see the variety of, like you say, opera, dance shows, concerts, everything that people can go and watch, I think that's a really, really powerful thing. In your career, what was your first pinch me moment? There's been some incredible things that you've done, and did you ever sort of sit back and go, wow, that is actually amazing?
I think a big pinch me moment was the very first show I produced in London. I'd done a lot of student drama, and I was business manager for the National Student Drama Festival, which was great. I made some lifelong friends there, and still see people that I met at that Student Drama Festival. But I worked at the Royal Court Theatre, and it was with an independent company, a feminist independent company in the early 80s. It was 1984, and we produced, for the first time in London in centuries, a restoration comedy written by a woman, Afra Ben, who, yes, there were women writers then, it's unbelievable, but she wrote a play called The Lucky Chance. We got an amazing cast. I have to tell you, it had Harriet Walter, it had Alan Rickman.
Oh, wow.
It had Dennis Lawson, who is still going strong, Catherine Pogson, wonderful actor. It was fabulous. And we produced it at the Royal Court, and I think opening the Sunday Times review of that, having been there at the first night and getting a really wonderful review, and we got all our money back in a short run, which was unbelievable. It meant we could carry on and produce something else. That was a pinch me moment.
Yeah, that sounds fantastic.
Hey, maybe I can make this work as a job.
Yeah, and you did.
Professionally, and I did, yeah.
So thinking about all of those experiences up until that point, how has it shaped you and your confidence in what you do today?
You learn, and you learn by your mistakes. Yeah. And sometimes it's taught me that you have to be, I would pause to say ruthless, but I think you have to stick by your convictions. That sometimes I've made wrong decisions that have ended up being more complicated and more difficult to unpick in the end. Making appointments for people, thinking, I need to be fair about this, and employ somebody, perhaps if you're bringing two businesses together, employ somebody from each side. Whereas actually what you need to do is employ people who share the vision with you. And I think sometimes I've made mistakes by not sticking to what I thought, and actually doing what I thought probably would be fairer, but ended up creating more problems.
Yeah.
I've learnt to be hopefully more articulate. You know, it's a skill is to be able to summarise something quite complicated down to a few sentences. And I think most things in business, if you really think about it hard and analyse what it is, you can explain to other people. I think you have to be tenacious. You know, the sort of transformational deals that I've worked on are all deals that, you know, I hung on, lost out on, didn't go away, came back. And the only way you succeed to do that is if you've done the work and you are super prepared and you're ready. You've got to have done the work, you know. Yes, there are opportunities, but the luck isn't that. It's not so much luck, it's actually about being prepared and ready.
Yeah.
So you've got to do that, or in whatever the opportunities, do the work, do the hard work, and make sure you're on top of it, and then you'll be able to go when the opportunity does finally come.
Brilliant. Lots of preparation.
Indeed.
The next segment that we're going to have here is some pre-recorded questions from some of our students from Drama Kids and from Stagecoach.
Lovely.
So we've got a tablet here that we're going to hand you, so
Thank you.
we can have a little listen to the questions they would like to ask you.
Oh, look.
Just press the little play button on the left.
Here we go.
Hello, I'm Sophia and I'm 17. How do you make sure you look after your health and well-being?
Okay.
So health and well-being.
Health and well-being. Well, it's difficult in our job, lots of late nights. And I've had 3 kids spread over quite a long period of time. So I had, at different times, I had 3 of them at 3 different schools and always had a very demanding home life.
That is the juggle, isn't it?
It's a huge juggle. And yet I've had to go to the theatre because you can't work in live theatre and not see shows.
Yeah.
So I would try to limit myself to more than 3 nights a week, everything would fall apart. I would prepare stuff at the weekend, you know, really try to think about what the kid's going to eat, and because otherwise you can just end up eating endless horrible ready meals.
Yes.
You know, I think you need to plan, you need to prepare, you need to, unfortunately, I did much less of the partying than most people in theatre did. After an opening night, for decades, I would be straight home.
Yeah.
Because I knew that I'd have to be up at 6:30 the next morning, organising the sports kit or the reading bag or the homework. Or,
Yeah.
you know, and my son remembers, he said, "You were never there in the evenings, Mum." Okay, yes, I'm sorry. But he said, "You made me get up at 6:30 in the morning for the revision for my exams, and you were testing me on geography or chemistry or whatever at 6:30 in the morning." And it's true. I think I burnt the candle at both ends.
Yeah.
But I couldn't go out and party as well.
No.
So I was strict about the partying. I've always been strict about trying to eat healthily, not eating junk food all the time, you know, making myself make the salads. And I also strongly believed in the kids having, you know, whether it was simple stuff, but
Yeah.
they would actually have fresh food.
Because
and
it's
not-
easy to fall into the convenient stuff, especially when you're living such a busy lifestyle.
Completely.
Yeah.
So I'd try to make stuff at the weekend and freeze it and then remember to get it out. And I've only ever allowed myself 20 minutes to cook in the evening.
Oh, really?
Speed cooking.
Ah. So again, comes back to the preparation.
Yeah, got to have it ready, and you just got to do a few choppy chops and chuck them in, and that's it.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So we've got a second
Thank
question as
you.
well for you.
Hi, I'm Lulu, I'm 16, and what's the best live gig you've been to?
No hesitation on this,
Okay.
I have to say. Having worked in the entertainment business, I've been very fortunate to be taken to quite a lot of live gigs. But the best one, without a shadow of a doubt, and it's a long time ago, was in Milton Keynes. And in the summer, there is a Milton Keynes Bowl, open
Okay.
air. And we were with some American partners who worked for Live Nation. I think it was called Clear Channel at that time, but it was Live Nation essentially. We got backstage passes for Bruce Springsteen.
Fantastic.
And I have to say, dancing in the wings with my pal was really fun with Bruce Springsteen.
And did you get to meet Bruce Springsteen?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, fabulous.
It was great. Long time ago. But it was really fun.
That does
was my
sound
best
brilliant.
gig.
Yeah. Oh, not many people can say that.
No, it's the high point of my career in showbiz.
Oh, fantastic. Your advice for younger generations and parents. What would you tell your younger self to boost your confidence?
One needs to take risks and try things. And I think I've always been a bit of a scaredy cat. You know, I'm not sure I fancy trying that. If I was telling my younger self, I think I would have a go at trying things. Dancing, maybe. I wish I'd had some proper structured dance classes so I could, do some proper steps. I've danced like everybody does going out to clubs and things, but I actually wouldn't have trusted myself to do it, and I think it's a mistake.
Yeah.
Why not? I think try things, give it a go. Yeah, don't take risks, don't put yourself in danger, but really push yourself to your limit and try things that even if you feel uncomfortable and it's not in your space, because you might find something that's amazing that you're really good at.
Absolutely.
And unless you try, you don't know, do you?
I mean, we have so many young people who do exactly what you said. They take a risk and they come and try Stagecoach or Drama Kids, and they come walking in the door and suddenly they love it.
Yep.
And they never would have thought to do that. So I think that's really sound advice. Give things a go. What advice would you give to any parents if you wanted to encourage them to help build confidence within their child? Would it be a similar thing, encouraging them to get out and do stuff?
Definitely. And I think I genuinely believe, as did Stella Rimington, this extraordinary woman who I talked about earlier, that if you have the opportunity to do something in the creative industries and the creative arts, it really does give you confidence, it gives you teamwork, it gives you the ability to present yourself. Because I know from my kids, they spent, particularly my youngest, who really grew up on her iPad and tablet and phone, you need to lift your eyes from the screen. And you need to be able to talk to people, like you and I, you look at each other in the eyes, don't you?
Yeah.
And you need to be able to present yourself to other people, and you can do that little by little by going to exposing yourself to some performing arts education. Yeah.
Absolutely. So this brings us to the part of the podcast where we start to wrap up. But before we do a curtain call. So obviously in theatre, curtain call is when people come back out on stage and have another go. What is something that you're proud of that you wish that everybody would know about you, or something you'd like to be known for?
Well, I think I've won a few awards in my time.
Mm-hmm.
And one of them was Entrepreneur of the Year, and I'm the only woman who's ever won that particular award.
Wow.
I had an amazing trip to Monaco representing the UK. It was a bit like the Olympics. I've never ever represented the country. That was an amazing thing. However, the one award that perhaps isn't very well known, but I was actually most proud to win, was Kindness in Leadership. I think it is possible to be a leader in whatever you do in business, that you can be kind to people and that you can actually have time to listen to what's going on in their lives, to see what they're having for lunch, chat to them in the kitchen, know when they've got bothered to write, when they have a baby, or when they lose a parent or something bad happens to them. It doesn't cost you anything to think about other people. And I've always found, contrary to people who shout and bully, I could never do that at work. I think it's not something that for me works. I think being kind and thoughtful to your colleagues will, I think, bring loyalty and support and commitment. That's what I believe, and I think kindness in the workplace should be recognised.
Absolutely. Brilliant. I couldn't agree more. And then your encore. So a moment from your life you'd like to revisit, either to just relive it again or to do it differently.
Gosh. Well, I have to say, the moment when I won the Entrepreneur of the Year award was pretty spectacular. I have to say, I was so convinced. I'd won an award which was for, I forget the exact title, it was a minor award in the evening, and it was for essentially having done 20 years in a business. It was for sort of longevity. And I thought, well, this is because they want to pension me out and they think I'm really old. And I had packed up all my stuff. I was on a table right at the very back, and I kept looking, thinking, am I going to get the train? Because I wanted to get back. Typical me, I wanted to get home and out of it. And I was half out the door, literally holding my bags, when they announced that I'd won.
Oh, wow.
And David Bradbury has got a fantastic picture. This is a colleague, David Bradbury. And I literally, my jaw had dropped. It was right down there. It was, what? So reliving that moment would be pretty special. But I shouldn't have been packed up. I should have been more confident. And I should have thought, be looking and get that great picture. Instead of me scuttling from the back, I should have had the picture where I was looking ready. And yes, of course I won. But I didn't do that.
Well, if ever there was a reason to miss a train, I think that's a pretty good one. Yeah. So that brings us to the end, Rosemary. Thank you so much. But before you go, as a token of our thanks, we've prepared something for you, which all of our guests get their very own Performing in Life poster.
That's lovely.
So thank you very much for being a guest.
Yeah, look, I love it.
There you go. It matches.
Thank you.
Round of applause
Thanks
for Rosemary.
So
Thank you very much, everybody.
Brilliant. Well done, guys.